solve the equation log x base 2 plus log 4 base x is equal to 3. Okay. Now, we can see that on the left-hand side of this equation, the logarithms are not on the same base. Here we have base 2 and here we have base x. So the first thing we need to do is to change this base from x to 2 so that the logarithms on the left-hand side will have a common base. So we now have log x base 2 plus, now we want to change this base from x to 2. And remember that the change of base law in logarithm says that when the base of a logarithm is to be changed to a new base, then the logarithm of the number to the new base must be divided by the logarithm of the former base to the new base. So we're going to have log 4 base 2. We want to change to base 2 divided by log x base 2. The logarithm of the number to the new base must be divided by the logarithm of the former base, which is x, to the new base. That is the rule of engagement, and which is equal to 3. Alright, now this is log x base 2 plus, now we know that log 4 base 2 is equal to 2 because that number we are going to place on top of 2 and the result is 4. That is the value of log 4 base 2 and that number is 2. So we have 2 divided by log x base 2 is equal to 3. Now we can see that on the left hand side of the equation, the logarithms have a common base. So we're now going to let log x base 2 to be equal to an arbitrary constant. Now let's call that constant y. So we have, let's log x base 2, let's call it y. So what it means is that anywhere we see log x base 2 in this equation, we replace it with y. So this equation becomes y plus 2 divided by y is equal to 3. Okay, now when we collect the LCM is y. Now 1 into y is y. Y times y is y squared plus y into y give us 1. 1 times 2 is 2. Now this is equal to 3. Okay, now when we cross multiply, we are going to have y squared plus 2 is equal to 3y. So when we transfer this 3y to the left hand side of the equation, we will have y squared minus 3y plus 2 is equal to, what remains on the right hand side now is nothing but 0. Now we can now see that this is a quadratic equation. Now the easiest method to solve this quadratic equation is factorization method, where we are going to use these 2 to multiply the coefficient of y squared here, which is 1, and 2 times 1 is equal to 2, and the factors of 2 are 1 and 2. So we are going to replace this minus 3y with those factors. So we'll have y squared minus 2y minus y plus 2 is equal to 0. Because minus 2y minus y is the same thing as minus 3y. Alright, so we're now going to group this. Now, we now factor out y, because y is here and y is here. We bring out y and place whatever that remains inside the bracket. What remains here is y. minus what remains here is 2. Now, minus what we have here is 1 into, we're going to make sure that the factors inside the bracket are identical. That is the rule of engagement here. So we have y minus 2 is equal to 0. There is no error here because minus 1 times y is minus y, and minus 1 times minus 2 will give us plus 2. So this is equal to 0. So now we collect the factors outside the bracket and collect just one of the factors that are inside the bracket. So we have y minus 2 into y minus 1 is equal to 0. Alright, and you know that when the product of two numbers is equal to 0, then each of the numbers must be equal to 0. So that means that y minus 2 is equal to 0 and y minus 1 is equal to 0. So if y minus 2 is equal to 0, of course we know that y is equal to 2. And if y minus 1 is equal to 0, we know that y is equal to 1. Alright. Now remember that we are not asked to find the value of y, rather we are asked to find the value of x that satisfies that equation. Alright. So we're going to go back to that equation we established, this very equation, and substitute the values of y into this equation. So now, remember that the equation says log x base 2 is equal to y. Now when y is equal to 2, we put the value of y here, becomes log x base 2 is equal to y here is 2, and we have log x base 2 is equal to y here is 1, so we put 1. Remember that from the concept definition of logarithm, if log x base 2 is equal to 2, then that means that 2 raised to power 2 is equal to x. So from here, 2 raised to power 2 is equal to x. And also from here, 2 raised to power 1 is equal to x. Now 2 raised to power 2 is equal to 4. So 4 is equal to x. And 2 raised to power 1 is equal to x. 2 raised to power 1 is equal to 2. Therefore, the values of x that satisfies this equation are x is equal to